I always just felt like I was against the clocks. I didn't get married until I was 39. And there's a term in Farsi for girls that aren't married before a certain age, and it literally means you've spoiled. I was the first woman in my family to break this cycle.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about what you think your style says about you?
I think it says how I'm feeling that day. I used to be able to section off parts of myself. I can't really do that anymore. I show up as my whole self. This is a collaboration I did with Jordan a couple years ago. And my best friend, I used one of her quotes on the shoe. If you knew what you had was rare, you would never waste it. Her and I have these constant conversations about the difference between who we are and what we are. It's like you have all these roles in the world, but it's the what that you bring to them that animates them and then makes them special. I think the who is just sort of my vessel, but the vessel without a spirit that animates it is nothing. It's just an empty vessel.
Can you talk about assumptions that people make about you based on how you appear?
People think that because I'm Persian, I grew up rich. I think that what happens in a lot of Persian families, the kids are set up in a certain kind of way where they continue the legacy of whatever their family is doing, which is usually to become like a lawyer or a doctor, or something that's considered noble. Not only did I not come from that, but I just did something that I had no reference point for. People think a lot about me because of who I'm married to. Well, I think because I married somebody who's really well off and who has fame, I think that they think that now I'm like too big for my britches, maybe, or that I've changed. It's made me feel lonely a lot, but not anymore. I feel like if you have one person that you really like, love, and trust completely, it's enough.
Are you referring to your husband?
No.
Oh.
My best friend.
So can you talk about an insecurity that you have struggled with or working on?
I think something that I've dealt with is just this overall sense of never feeling enough. I guess this is kind of a personal example. I hope my husband doesn't mind me sharing it, but he went away one time. And then when we got back together, he just didn't really show me that he missed me. And so I remember asking him, I'm like, didn't you miss me? And he was like, meh. And when he said that, it's like I fell off of a cliff. It's not about how he sees me, it's the fact that I don't see myself yet. If I was carrying a full knowing of my own dazzle, I would never question my powers, I would never question my value.
Where do you think that need for validation comes from?
I just think it's not being seen. When I was younger, I received more projection than I did mirroring. It was always like, this is who you should be. This is what you should look like. This is what's good. But it was never looking at me and being like, hey, you're incredible like this. Mm-hmm. So it's been a lot of me removing those shoulds and then looking at myself and being like, oh, I'm really good at that. One of the things that was shown to me or taught to me growing up was that seduction is like an attribute of God. If you're a woman and you're seductive, you're going to be good in life because you can get any man, then that's it. Like
you're safe.
You're set. You're safe. You're set. You've done your family honor. And I'm the opposite of seductive. I'm super shy. I don't know how to seduce anything. So a lot of my life, I was like, what am I going to do? I'm never going to get a man. But as I got older, I was like, there's nothing about me that wants to be seductive. And in fact, I think it's trickery and it's not honest. And I was like, the real attribute of God, I think, is attraction. I mean, my husband's a perfect example. Like, he wasn't my type at all. But as soon as I met him, there was something about him that just captivated me, and I was genuinely attracted to him. Culturally, a woman's value lies more so in who she marries than who she becomes. And when I was on track to go to law school, after I dropped out, it caused such a disruption. I don't think it was because I wasn't gonna become a lawyer anymore. It's because I wouldn't be as viable a candidate for a husband. So it was a huge turning point because everything that I was living according to was false. All these voices that were like, yeah, you are gonna bring shame to your family. I didn't feel like I was designed to live my life for somebody else. I still had relationships. I didn't necessarily attract or was attracted to the kind of people that they expected me to be attracted to, because if there was like an eligible bachelor, for example, unless he was genuinely attracted to me, there was no way for me to like be in the running to seduce him. But it took a long time for me to accept that I was gonna go against the grain, so to speak. Like, I always just felt like I was against the clocks. I didn't get married until I was 39. And there's a term in Farsi for girls that aren't married before a certain age, and it literally means you've spoiled. I was the first woman in my family to break this cycle. I loved my life. I had started my own company, but I hadn't met somebody that I wanted to marry. It was sort of like, and maybe I'm just gonna become one of those career women my mom talks about that's gonna be lonely. And like, what's the point of being a woman if you can't have kids?
What state were you in when you met your partner?
Well, I met him when I was 38. And I feel like when I was 37, I had finally gotten to that place where I was so happy being on my own. I had let go of those beliefs, and I had just accepted that they weren't true, they weren't for me, that happiness was my only goal. I'd go to concerts all the time. I love music. I would go to basketball games, and I would go to them alone, and it was so fun. And I was having meditation gatherings and like sister circles and all kinds of stuff at my house all the time. And I was learning how to cook. And I didn't pressure myself. Like prior to that, I would pressure myself. I was like, well, if I want to meet somebody, I got to go out. Even my friends would be like, well, if you want to meet somebody, or well, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to. And then I tried the online dating thing and I hated it. I was on there for like 2 days. That's not my way. I'm never going to force myself to do something that makes me uncomfortable or that I don't like or that I don't have a good feeling about, because I should be putting myself out there. So instead, I just started doing all the things that I loved. And I was like, I know that love is the vehicle for me to any kind of information that I need for me. So even the way that I met my husband is that I played piano growing up. And there was a music school down the street from my house that I could walk to. And I was like, in this pursuit of like doing things that I love, I was like, I'm gonna take piano lessons again. And after a year of taking piano lessons, the director at the school figured out what I did for a living. And she was like, hey, we're doing our yearly fundraiser gala for the school. Would you be interested in donating some of your stuff to the school? And I was like, yeah, of course. And she was like, you should come to the gala. And I was like, cool. That night is when I met my husband, because he started the school. I think we undermine love so much. We also don't trust it because it's hurt so many of us so many times. Mm-hmm. I think that if you can trust what you love, you will never, ever go wrong. I think even after I got married, there was a part of me that was like, I'm set now, I'm good, like I'm safe. I just wanted to give myself to him in a way that wasn't healthy at all. And thank God, I think he did not allow that He's very autonomous. And so it was this process of like me reeling myself back, like I still need to work on me, not just serve this man, but rather be accompanied by him and accompany him in return and have mutuality. I'm so inspired by my partner. People revere him as like one of the greatest bassists in the world, but he practices every day, never sees himself as like ever made it. It just kind of like inspired me because I feel like often women aren't given the permission to go that hard when it comes to the thing that they love, especially when it doesn't involve kids. And as soon as I got married, it was like, when are you gonna have a kid? It was like, dude, chill. I just got married. You know, if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, well, I can't do it after this age. And now I'm like, I still think I have years to make that decision.
When do you feel the most vulnerable?
Probably in the context of a marriage, because I've never made a commitment to somebody where I've had to stay. If something makes me feel bad, I have to address it with him because he's gonna be there. I can't just go home.
When do you feel the most beautiful?
When I'm in my purpose, like when I'm doing what I love. I know I'm here, I know I'm important, I know what I'm here to do, I know what I bring, and I have a knowing that I can't describe. Why would my creator design me in such a way where I would be attracted to these things and I'd have these gifts and I'd be good at these things and then them not be important? Who are we to judge ourselves about what we're good at, what we want to do, how we serve, what we serve? Like, you know, it's always the smallest thing that has the hugest ripple. And we forget that, or we never go back to that thing. But small things are big things.
Last question, why in your body, in your skin, in your journey, why is it a good place to be?
It's my vehicle. You know, I look to nature and I think, I'm like, how does anybody not believe in a creator? Like everything is so perfectly designed. All our bodies are dying to work with us. And the only time they fail us is when we don't listen to them, or we neglect them, or we go against our purpose. I really honor my vehicle and I try to listen to it because it gives me information about where to go, how to show up, what to do. And I really feel like everything that comes in and out of my body or in association with my body is information for me to help me find my most efficient path to being me.
That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. That was super, super beautiful.
This week's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Is there something that's interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? For me personally, one of the things that prevented me from reaching my potential and feeling the most free and whole in myself was my journey with my body image. It wasn't until doing StyleLikeU and starting the What's Underneath project that, combined with therapy, has been incredibly healing on my journey, and I feel more free than I ever have. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own professional licensed therapist.
And you can start communicating within 48 hours.
It's not a crisis line and it's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online.
BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today.
Visit betterhelp.com/StyleLikeU, that's better HELP, and join over 1 million people who are taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. Special offer for StyleLikeU listeners, you can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/StyleLikeU.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of What's Underneath with Melody Ehsani.
For more interviews like these, subscribe to StyleLikeU.
And don't forget to click the bell so that you're reminded of every time we drop a new episode on Thursdays.